Hello adventurers. Tonight we have a lighter story compared to some that have been told in the past. Although we do have a player acting out, this story is more about the magpie nature of that player. A magpie with an eye for magic items. Let's get into it. Tonight's story is called Druid is asked to give up one of his 6 magic items and throws a temper tantrum. Basically, me and my adventuring party of 5 were fleeing a crumbling temple before we'd gotten a chance to properly loot the place. Some monsters were chasing us, so we were in initiative order. On our way towards the exit, we happened to pass through a large room filled with loot. All of us wanted to grab some stuff, but the first 3 members of the party decided to use their turns running through the room and spending an action on something else. Come to my turn. I have my paladin use his movement to run to the other end of the loot chamber. Then I decide to spend my action casting Detect Magic. 3 things in the room register as magical. And since I don't have any movement or action left, I call out to our 5th party member, the Druid, and point to where the things are and tell him to grab them on his way. On his turn, he does just that. Boom! Success! We're all excited. Up to this point in the game, we haven't really received any magical items at all. Or so we thought. More on that later. So this was a big deal for us. Well, we get to wherever we decide to set up camp, and the Druid asks if he can start attuning to the 3 items to learn what they do. Our dungeon master, bless him, is clearly trying to encourage him to spread the items amongst the group. So he tells him that, no, he can only attune to 1 per rest. Then he asks the Druid if he would like to give 2 items to other people so that we can all learn what they do. The Druid says, no, I want to keep them all for myself and find out what they do first. The rest of us, including the Dungeon Master, are silent. All of our characters are right there watching him start to attune to this magic sword. And my character especially knows there are at least 2 other objects. So, in character, I ask him if I can see one of the other items to find out what it does. Again, he says, nope. Now usually I try not to do anything even remotely PvP, but no one was saying anything, and I was super annoyed that we wouldn't even have these items if I hadn't wasted my turn casting Detect Magic and trying to work as a team. And now he's really turning around and trying to keep them all for himself. So I asked the Dungeon Master if I can make some kind of contested check to try and grab the sword out of the Druid's hands. As soon as I say this, the Druid has a total meltdown. He's literally almost 30, 6 or so years older than the rest of us, and he started throwing a full-on temper tantrum. He starts shouting over the Dungeon Master at me, shut up, shut up, shut up, they're mine, you can't do that. That kind of thing, for like a minute. Finally, the Dungeon Master gets a word in and agrees with me and says I can make the check. He's clearly on my side, but as fate would have it, I failed the roll. So the Druid kept all 3 items, learned what they did, never shared them with the group, forgot about them, and literally never used them a single time. I don't even know what the other 2 items were at this point, but I at least knew he got a dope sword, and he doesn't even use swords, and he never gave it to anyone else. After the game, the Dungeon Master and I talked. He was feeling the exact same way as me. We just had never had this kind of situation before, and he didn't know what to do, which is fair. But here's the kicker. Remember when I said we hadn't received any magic items in the game up to this point? The Dungeon Master reminded me that that isn't true. We had 3 other magic items. The Druid just took all of them and forgot about every single one. One was a Lantern of Revealing, one was some kind of shape-shifting necklace, and one was a Ring of the Ram that the Druid was allowed to start the game with. So yeah, for a while we had 5 players and 6 magic items, and every single one was in the hands of this one player, and the only one he ever used was the Ring of the Ram. It's been several months since this, and the Dungeon Master has definitely balanced things out, but every so often we encounter something that looks even remotely valuable, and the Druid jumps at it before the Dungeon Master even finishes speaking. Thankfully, at this point, the entire party is prepared enough to shut him down together and tell him that he needs to share. A shorter story this evening. I honestly cannot say I've ever encountered a player who attempts to hoard magic items. All of my group's players have been economic with the magic items given to them. So the thought of a player hoarding over 5 magic items is completely baffling to me. And it does seem like something that could even be solved in-game. At the end of the day, what party would want somebody so selfish travelling with them? Have any of you ever played in a game with a greedy player like this? Let me know how that went in the comments. And if you enjoyed the story, please consider liking and subscribing as it helps me grow. Thank you. That's all I have for this evening. Good night.